Hello, fifth graders. Thank you for coming to watch this video on the notes for the lesson, The Revolution Begins. So just prior to during the Revolution, even during all that time period, we learned about colonists protest British rule with all the taxes and everything. Not all of the colonists were in agreement on everything. And there were some reasons that there was division amongst the colonies and the colonists. One was many different languages were spoken. You could have French, Spanish, German, all kinds of different languages were spoken, which can lead to some conflict and some disagreements when you don't understand each other. There were many different religions in the colonies, and especially like Protestants and Catholics. Not all of them always agreed with each other just because of the idea of religion. And there was even different opinions and viewpoints from people that were in the cities versus those that were living in the farms, in the fields, so kind of in the backwoods. Because those in the cities often felt like the farmers, those in the back country, those settlers, you should deal with your own problems and not expect people in the city to help you. Uh, Another reason a lot of people didn't want to have any problems with Great Britain because there were some benefits to belonging to Great Britain and to the British Empire. So that empire is referring to everything owned by Great Britain. One of the biggest benefits was Great Britain had a very strong army, so the soldiers that were fighting on the ground, and navy, so the ships on the sea. And why wouldn't you want to be a part of an empire that had the strongest and best army and navy in the world? Another benefit in green there was the colonies liked trading with Great Britain. They made a lot of money trading back and forth, even though Great Britain had put a lot of those different laws into place. Another reason was almost all the colonists were from Great Britain, had family in Great Britain, or their grandparents or great grandparents were from Great Britain, so they had that connection still, and they had family back in Great Britain. Three negatives belonging to Great Britain. Number one goes back to that saying we had no taxation without representation. We have Parliament over in London passing laws without the colonists having a voice. Parliament charging duties or those taxes on specific goods being shipped or bought from other countries. So again, paying more taxes. And in almost all the colonies, 11 of the colonies, the King of Great Britain picked the governor of each colony, appointed. And that governor had the power to veto those laws. And that made a lot of people upset, especially those that were in the assemblies. So all of that we learned about in the last lesson on colonists protest British rule, a lot of the colonists were angry, they were upset, so they knew something was going to happen, so they started collecting weapons, gunpowder, musket balls, muskets, all those things they might need in case something were to happen. Well, the British learned about that, and when they learned about it, they said, we can't let the colonists have those weapons. We need to go find them and take them. And that was their plan, was to go see if they could figure them out. And why is this not working? Okay, I'm just going to have a quick timeout, please. So the British were looking for those weapons, and so the colonists knew at some point they would come looking for them. So they had a plan in place. The British had a big presence here in Boston. And in Boston, there's a North Church. And they had a plan. Somebody would be on the lookout to see when the soldiers would leave Boston. They would hang lanterns in the steeple, so really tall so they could see them. And their plan was one if by land, two if by sea. So if the British, where this green is right here is land. So if the British marched on the land, they'd hang one lantern. If the British crossed in boats over the water here, they'd hang two lanterns. And they had people that would go riding to warn that the regulars were coming. And so when they saw that the regulars are the British redcoat soldiers. So when they saw they were going, they hung two lanterns. And that meant the British were crossing by sea in the boat here. So you had people going, running and delivering this message. You had Paul Revere was one, William Dawes, and Samuel Prescott. They were just, there's many. Those are just probably the most famous, and Paul Revere being the most famous, the famous Paul Revere's Midnight Ride. This happened at night. So they ran ahead to warn, going back to the notes here, the militia. And you can see right here, militia were part-time soldiers. And the militia in Lexington were warned that the regulars were coming. And you can see Lexington right here on the map here. So they were warned that they were coming. So with that warning, they all got ready to stop the British from coming into the town. And when the British got there, in this bottom paragraph right here, it says it's a sides stood in lines facing each other. The redcoats ordered the Minutemen. Now, that nickname was given to the militia because they could be ready in a minute's notice. And these militia were part-time citizen soldiers, meaning they were like carpenters, farmers. Being a soldier was not their job. So the redcoats said, put your weapons down. The militia said, no, we're not going to. Nobody really knows who fired first. And one side did. Even to this day, we don't know. Was it the redcoats or was it the militia? Nobody knows. And the nickname of that shot was the shot heard around the world because that first shot started the Revolutionary War. And after a quick battle, the British won. 10 colonists were wounded and 10 killed, with only one redcoat hurt. So then the redcoats continued from Lexington to Concord. Now, Concord is not on this map, but you can see the road to Concord goes right here between the purple and red horses. So Concord would be over here somewhere. So the redcoats continue their march. And there they met more militia who had been warned to be ready. They were met at the North Bridge. There the colonists fought hard and forced the redcoats to retreat. When you retreat, it means you're running away, basically. And they retreated all the way back to Boston. And as they were retreating back to Boston, there were more militiamen there along the way, hiding behind trees, walls, and just firing at them any chance they could get. So before arriving at Boston, the British had lost 273 killed or wounded soldiers. The Americans had lost 93 killed or wounded soldiers. So some other early battles. May 10th, 1775, colonial forces capture Fort Ticonderoga without firing a shot by sneaking into the fort and surprising the guards. I made another video that goes over pictures from Fort Ticonderoga, so make sure you watch that video. But from Fort Ticonderoga, they were able to capture a lot of cannonballs and cannons that were very important for the Americans. And later on in June, we have really what's considered the first major battle of the war. Colonial forces built earthen walls, which in military terms called breastworks, for protection on Breed's Hill, which are overlooking Boston. They're not on this map, but they're kind of right in this area over here where I'm moving the mouse. So they built fortifications up there. And that was close to Bunker Hill, both of which surround Boston and provide a good place for cannons to fire into the town. And those cannons had come from Fort Ticonderoga. So it was called the Battle of Bunker Hill because that's originally where the British wanted to attack. But the Americans found out and they moved to Breed's Hill, which was a little closer to Boston. So even though the fighting was on Breed's Hill, we still call it the Battle of Bunker Hill. So the British attacked the American fortifications at the top of Breed's Hill. The Americans knew they didn't have a lot of ammunition. They were short on musket balls, gunpowder. So one of the legendary orders to come from there was don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes, meaning make sure they're close enough you can see their eyes. So when you fire, you have a better likelihood of hitting your target. The redcoats charged twice, and the colonists, the colonial militia up top, stopped them twice. But then the colonial militia, they ran out of ammunition, and on the third time the redcoats charged, the colonial militia had to surrender, and the British won the Battle of Bunker Hill. More than 400 colonists and 1,000 redcoats were killed or wounded at the Battle of Bunker Hill. And after that first major battle, everybody realized, yep, we are in the middle of the war, and that's the only way that the colonies would now get their independence from Great Britain. So now the colonies are starting to realize we need to fight to be our own country. And the only way we can become our own country is by fighting a war and defeating Great Britain in this war. Thanks for watching this video. Please let me know if you have any questions, and make sure you're watching any other videos I put out about the Battle of Bunker Hill. I have a video also on YouTube for you to watch. So thanks for watching, and have a good rest of your day. Bye.